When you chair the International AI Safety Report, we'll just start there. Is AI safe?
No, that's the problem. We're building systems that we don't know how to control. They will behave sometimes against our instructions. And that is, this lack of reliability is both a scientific challenge and a problem for the deployment of AI.
So how do we, if we use social media as the example, we failed that experiment, I think many would say, that we did not keep ahead in terms of oversight, regulations. We could go into all the things that have gone wrong and how it's impacted society. What faith do you have that we get this right? And it can't just be the U.S. deciding or Europe deciding. It's got to be a global work or progress on this.
Absolutely. Safety is a global question because a dangerous model, one that can be misused in dangerous ways, like Mythos, for example, could be designed in one country and then somebody in a second country uses it to attack a third country. So the Americans need to make sure that Chinese models are not used against the US and vice versa. It is an international question.
Can I ask you, is it like missiles and nuclear weapons, and that there will be a mutual deterrence because everyone will be proficient on some level when it comes to AI?
There are analogies. I think one of the big differences is that there isn't as much money to be made with nuclear weapons as there is with AI, which means the incentive structure is now pushing companies towards going faster and faster and not paying enough attention to the safety issues and the public protection.
But I think one thing that I think concerns a lot of people is that, you could have, let's just use Anthropic as an example. You have Anthropic and what they're doing with Mythos, but just because Anthropic has that right now doesn't mean DeepSeek couldn't have that 6 or 8 or 12 months from now, or even something more powerful.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter if one country is doing things a certain way or one company is doing a certain way if the entire world is not actually adhering to a certain set of framework.
Exactly. That is why we need international coordination. Initially, it's probably going to be just the US and China, but at some point, as other countries are also beefing up their capabilities, it has to be international.
What keeps you up at night? Lay out the doomsday scenario for us.
Well, there are many catastrophic risks because intelligence gives power. And that power could be in the wrong hands, could be used by terrorists or countries which want to destabilize us. It could be used even by the people in power to create a dictatorship. And we don't know how to make sure AIs themselves will not use that power against us.
But how? Harnessing social media, logging in, taking infrastructure offline, give us concrete examples of what these entities could do.
So what the companies are worried about right now are cyber attacks because these AIs really have a lot of knowledge of computing and vulnerabilities. And on their radar and the evaluations they're making is also the use of AI to build dangerous viruses. So you could think of people using AI to create new pandemics. They're also worried about what happens when AI itself is used to create the next version of AI. So AI doing AI research, and if we don't control these systems, they could put back doors to create AIs that are not friendly to us.
So
now I am worried.
So in other words, you're talking about AI that can think on its own and work on its own.
Well, it's already the case.
It's already the
case. Whole point of agents is that they're autonomous, they have goals, and they work towards those goals. The real question is, who controls those goals? We would like to be the ones in charge, but right now we don't have the technical answers to make sure that's the case.
Yoshua, do you regret then the work that you did years ago?
I think I should have been seeing ahead, earlier, that we were building something that could become extremely powerful and that we don't know how to control, and that it would impact societies in which that currently, on the current trajectory, could be destructive.
So, but here we are, right?
Yes.
And it sounds like it does feel very doomsday and scary, but I do...
And it also feels like it's too late.
No, it's not.
And I want to talk about that, but I also feel like there's a lot of potential to do some great things as well.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that side.
Absolutely. I've been working for many years on how we can use AI to design better drugs. In medicine more broadly, how we can use AI to design better materials for batteries, for energy storage. And I know a lot of people working, for example, in how AI can help agriculture, can even help democratic debate tools. The question is, the same power that enables these things also enables, for example, in the case of biology, dangerous uses that could really harm a lot of people.
Do the potential positives outweigh the potential negatives?
Well, there's so much we don't know here. You have to weigh in the uncertainty. And
because it sounds great to have better medicine. It sounds great to have more efficient batteries. It sounds great to have an ecosystem where people are able to learn more and do quicker and be more efficient. But none of that matters if the AI agents are going to kill us.
Yes, or if we lose our democratic institutions and we end up in a dictatorship. So these are
But we're already having, if I think about democracy, let's go there.
Yes.
Right? We're already having these kinds of problems.
We do.
And this is
We do, but it could get worse. There are studies showing that AI is now getting better than people at persuasion. In other words, making people change their mind. Imagine this applied to change political opinions, to change public opinion. This is like shaking the foundations of what democracy rests on.
I don't know. People talk about the new industrial revolution. They make comparisons. Do we have any comparison in terms of the impact AI agents? No.
I mean, as usual,
it's something else that's changed our world dramatically. The light bulb.
As usual, I think the past can tell us things, but you have to realize we've never been in a situation where we build technology machines that would be smarter than us in many ways, and it's already the case in various domains, and it's just growing. There's nothing in history like we build machines that help us physically, that have much more powerful. Muscle-wise, but brain-wise, this is completely new.
We're speaking with Yoshua Bengio, founder and scientific advisor at Mila, Quebec AI Institute, co-president and scientific director at LawZero. It's focused on building safer AI agents. The productivity question is one that we want to get to. The investment that's been made from a CapEx perspective has just been so massive. The promises are that this will actually make us so much more productive and will lead to higher returns on investment. Is that true?
I don't have a crystal ball, but let's say there are different scenarios about how AI intelligence capabilities will grow in the future. I think the default is going to continue on the same trend, but it could also saturate, and then maybe some of these promises will not be realized. The other issue is, even if AI is more capable, it doesn't mean that it is behaving well. In fact, there is a serious scientific hypothesis that intelligence and the goals to which that intelligence is put to use are two very different things.
All right, so we talk about races in the world, and this is certainly a tech race, an AI race, right? So it sounds like for things to go better, safer, you've got to have global collaboration.
Yes.
So what is happening on that regard, or what needs to happen in your view? Based on your knowledge, you understand how this works. So what needs to happen to make sure that we don't have AI taking over?
I would say the most important thing that needs to happen is better understanding and awareness of what we're talking about by the governments around the world, and of course China and the US in the first place, but eventually many governments who have researchers and companies building AI as well. Because once we understand the magnitude of the risks that we're taking, we'll sit down at a table and negotiate.
One of the things I want to go back to what you said about productivity. Yeah. What about the labor market? Is it going to create, it's already tough for some of those starting jobs. I think a kid's coming out of college, or what does it mean for the global economy? What does it mean for the labor force? Does it create jobs? I mean, building data centers, yes, but how do you see it?
I mean, the number of people needed for data centers is peanuts compared to the effect that AI could have on the job market. But the economists don't agree. It really depends on the curve of advances in AI in the future. If it continues at the current rate, then yes, there will be massive automation coming too quickly for society to adapt.
Yoshua, who, given the work that you've done in this, and understanding the potential pitfalls of the technology, name names for us. Who's doing this well? Who understands the potential repercussions here?
I don't name names. I think there are a lot of people who have good intentions. The issue that makes the current dynamics dangerous in some ways is the incentive structure, is the competition between companies,
Okay.
competition between countries.
So maybe I'll ask this question a different way. What if you could have Dario Amodei in a room with Sam Altman, along with Jensen Huang, along with the leaders of all the hyperscalers,
Yeah.
and then of course the leaders of the Chinese companies as well? What would you tell them? What do they need to know?
So they know already, right? They know what I'm talking
Tell
about.
them.
What they need to do is to agree with each other on a set of principles about safety and like careful deployment of AI. And they're already talking about it. What they are asking actually is governments to agree with each other to make sure there's a level playing field for all the companies so that every company, before they build and deploy a very powerful AI, needs to show to the public, to the governments, that their system isn't going to be like dangerous in the wrong hands and all these issues we're talking about.
But are the financial incentives getting in the way? The race is on to
Yeah, it
spend
seems like a
and
prisoner's
spend.
dilemma.
Yes,
And it's who can go fastest and get it all done. So does that prevent the right thing from happening? Just got about 30 seconds
Well, no,
left.
we've dealt with situations like this before. I mean, governments have regulated things like drugs, trains, meat.
Yeah.
Because if it was just competition, we would end up with, dangerous food, dangerous planes, dangerous drugs. But now we enjoy all these things that are safe and useful because governments have intervened.
So in a word, yes or no, you're more hopeful than worried? Yes, hopeful, or no?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's not my vision that matters. It's
Yeah.
the actions that we take collectively.